welcome everybody to the Rutland Sacre meeting today, 8th of March. You should all have the papers somewhere, and so starting from the agenda, we'll start with a moment of reflection. We gather together here today intent on doing good work. We seek to represent fairly and well those who have given us this task. May our efforts be blessed with insight, guided by understanding and wisdom. We seek to serve with respect for all. May our personal beliefs give us strength to act honestly and well in all matters before us. Thank you, everybody. Apologies, Stacey.
Yes, we've had apologies from Councillor Stevenson, Elizabeth Papworth and Reverend James McWhirter this evening, Chair.
Thank you. Item number 3, the minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of January. Is everybody okay to agree those minutes, or has anyone spotted any omissions or incorrect items in there? No. Any comments? I'd like to propose that we confirm those minutes. Can I have a seconder? And everyone in agreement that those minutes are a fair, true record? Yeah, that's everybody. Thank you. Picking up on actions from the previous minutes that aren't elsewhere in the agenda, the agreed syllabus conference dates and the network meeting dates are now actually on the web and the calendar. Thanks, Stacey. There was a note for me to update the full council on the work of Sacre, and I plan to do that at the April meeting. Our April or March, maybe one of either March or April. The February one was just a budget meeting, so that wasn't appropriate to do it there, but I'll do it on in the March or April meeting. And we also had a note about membership, but I think I'll deal with that when we do the self-evaluation, which is about representation and membership. Amanda is doing an update which will include her action points, and I think that was everything. Unless there's anything else. So the next one is the update from Amanda on the agreed syllabus conference.
Yes, it's lots of work's been going ahead. Peter very kindly was there, and he's done some work on kind of like religion and worldviews, or worldviews and religion, and that's going to be discussed in the next meeting at the end of this month. The reason the dates have been put on there was actually when we actually realised that it was Father Toby from Peterborough actually reminded us that actually the dates, it's a meeting that comes held in public, so actually anybody who wants to come along to those meetings has the opportunity to. So we've put the dates on there, even though if anybody's there they can't actually say anything, they're just there to observe.
Amanda, can I just interrupt you? Sorry. So yeah. Stacey, is it appropriate to send an invite out to the members of Sacre so that we can add those to our calendar? Is that all right, Amanda?
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine with me. Yeah. Sacre, any Sacre member can come along, and because they're on Sacre, they can talk. It's just members of the public, and actually within the legislation, it says it's a public meeting.
Okay.
A meeting that has to be held in public, not a public meeting. There's a difference between those two. So we put the dates, so we're covered by putting the dates on the website.
Bjorn, have you asked the question now?
Will this meeting be held in public or on Zoom?
It is on Zoom, so actually, but it says on there actually, it needs to, perhaps just a note needs to say there at the moment they're on Zoom, and if you wish to attend, perhaps Laura's, that's who's clerking it, her details perhaps needs to be on there to contact, and then Laura will send the Zoom details over with a kind of like a little bit of spiel to say that it actually you're welcome to attend, but as you are not a member of Sacre or the agreed syllabus, you are there to observe only.
Okay, sorry, can I just be clear then? Who is Laura? Will Laura send an invite to this Sacre, or is that
Yes, yes, because
Stacey?
Laura holds all the
Okay.
teams and all the Zoom bits and pieces, so she can actually.
Okay.
So it is actually, as you know from Sacre, it's very rare for someone to actually want to come along and actually see what actually happens. But we're just
has Laura got all our details, or will she need to send that to Stacey?
Probably send it to Stacey's the best thing.
Okay. Right, is that okay, Stacey? So can you liaise with Laura, and then we can make sure that every member of this Sacre gets an invite to listen in if they want to. Is that okay? Can I ask Peter to come in now? Amanda, sorry, is that appropriate at this moment?
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
I just would like to know whether Amanda could clarify for me. Last time, I think the meeting was on Teams, not Zoom.
Yes, sorry.
Meeting was on Zoom, but it's now transferred to Teams.
Yes, it is. Sorry, that's my mistake. Yes, it is. It's all on Teams. Because I will make sure actually with Laura and Stacey that every member of Sacre in Rutland has access to those all the documents on there as well, because you should have access to all the minutes and any documents that are produced on there as well.
Okay.
I'll liaise with Laura and Stacey on that.
Yeah, if you could, thank you. Afternoon, Gerda. You've made it on to join us. Welcome.
Sorry about that.
Amanda's just updating us on the agreed syllabus conference. Right, back to you, Amanda. Now we've got those technical procedures sorted out.
That's okay. So we're going to be discussing what Peter's written in the next one. I met with two teachers called Becky Palmer. Becky Palmer is actually the Quaker member, but she's also an RE and PSHE teacher at Hinchingbrook. And Caroline Vinnell. Caroline Vinnell represents the Diocese of Ely, but she's also a teacher part-time because she works at Ely College. And we started to look at the concepts and actually what concepts and some of the pedagogy, looking at the Religious Education Council's paper from 2018 on the national entitlements, and we've looked at the Ofsted, and we kind of put some recommendations to use those concepts. I'm in the middle of actually my husband's helped me because he's much better at some things than I am. He's put together, and we're putting together a PowerPoint, putting these together of how they might look in the agreed syllabus and what they mean. And I'm kind of in the middle of doing that around everything else. A big debates also over other syllabuses and actually taking things, perhaps looking at other syllabuses as well, borrowing some of their ideas. They're welcome to do ours, and lots are really into that as well. And then it's kind of on to the next steps of looking at the concepts. I've done a whole load of work on knowledge with some teachers, and I'm going to be meeting some primary school teachers to look at assessment and what assessment and progression looks like. And that's kind of where we've got up to now. Gerda or Peter, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, yes. I'd like to add that on the statement of entitlement there is a definition of the term worldviews, which at some point I think I would like to discuss, because it's a rather narrow definition. And I don't really want to think this is perhaps an appropriate moment to do that. But rather than take up the concept as it's defined in the statement for entitlement, I think we might want to expand that.
I'm in total agreement on that, and I think it was actually the time in 2018 when it was produced. I think it was quite narrow, and I think actually the definition has widened and broadened actually since then. Into other, and I think this is why they're kind of having these concepts of what it looks like as well. And I think actually, yes, I agree, and that needs to be kind of looked at. It might be best actually, Peter, I'll speak to Sacre and Julia, that we perhaps actually have a small group of us get together and put that definition together.
Yes, indeed, if I may reply to that. But also I'm going to be speaking to the agreed syllabus conference about worldviews, and I shall make those comments then as well.
That's be great.
That's on the 30th of March.
Yeah, and that would be great.
Welcome, Megan. You made it. Hi.
Sorry I'm late.
That's okay. Amanda's updating. We're on item 5, update on the agreed syllabus conference.
Yes, it's slow going. It is slow going. So Andrew, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just asking you and Peter. Obviously, I'm particularly interested in definitions of worldviews. So any bump that you get, I'm quite happy to be in the loop. Might even make a contribution, you never know.
Thank you.
I'll send
Any
you,
more questions for Amanda or comments? Sorry, Peter, I interrupted you.
that's okay. I will certainly send Andrew a copy of my text about worldviews when I've given it on the 30th of March.
Thank you.
The other thing I would like to add, if I may, to Amanda's comments about these discussions we've had on the Agreed Syllabus Conference, is that there has been requests that we amend our constitution to include the Rutland Sacre Constitution, a section on the Agreed Syllabus Conference.
Section on what? Sorry, didn't hear that.
Section on the Agreed Syllabus Conference.
So amend the Rutland Sacre
Yes,
Constitution.
yes. I mean, to state such things as the number of our representatives, the amount of our contribution financially.
But sorry, can you just clarify that then? So who's requested this?
The chair of Agreed Syllabus Conference.
I think part of it was also to look at actually what actually is in Rutland, because I'm not sure if I have a copy of the Rutland Constitution, and I'm not sure if Peter did either, or Ogo did. Yeah, and actually it's actually making sure that actually what we're following the Rutland Constitution as well. So Stacey, do we have a constitution?
I don't think I've heard it called a constitution before. Gurdev.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what's been said. So this was just to say that if we've got a governing document, does it allow for us creating an agreed syllabus conference to create the syllabus to bring it back? Peterborough's and Cambridge's does, and they're very, very particular, which might need amending a little bit to be a bit more flexible, but it's just the same question to Rutland.
Okay, so is there a you've got a form of words that would be appropriate to include in it to allow that to happen?
Yeah, I believe Cambridge has been amended, and we could probably lift and copy the words as a starter for 10. Okay,
so I'm just interested why that wouldn't have been included before. It's not the first time that this has happened, is it?
Well, that's the reason. That's the reason for the question. Is it there, and does it allow for?
Okay, Bjorn, where have you? Oh, you've gone all over my screen.
If it were not there, would it have to be put to a vote?
Yes, it will do, because anything to do in terms of reference or constitution would have to go to a vote. So I think it's trying to find. It depends what you go. Some people call them terms of reference. Some people.
Yeah, I thought they were terms of. I thought they were terms of reference.
Okay.
So is there any problem if we bring that to the next meeting? That's not going to delay anything that you're working on.
No, I can't see that it does.
No problem.
Okay. So, Stacey, could you dig out the terms of reference? I think they're called, rather than the Constitution. And well, if you well, you might as well send them to all members of the Sacre, because there might be some other comments that we want to make. And then for our next meeting, if we have that on our agenda. I don't know if we need to actually cross-refer to anything within Rutland County Council. Probably might need to run it by our monitoring officer or governance on our legal team as well. So is that okay, Stacey? We'll just refer back to that and make sure that it gives us the scope to do that agreed syllabus conference. And anything, it's probably timely to have a look at it anyway, to see if there's anything else that we need to update or change to reflect how Sacre is working.
No, that's fine, Chair.
Thank you. Anything else, Amanda?
I know it's slow going. It is always slow going at the beginning, and I'm kind of debating with Julia and Sakana, the joint chairs, whether we actually need perhaps actually at the end of April a face-to-face meeting actually, and it's just working out, because actually sometimes you can get a lot more done, and with COVID restrictions, obviously thinking about COVID, thinking about where we can do this, and just trying to find a suitable venue for everybody to get to. That's some of the issue, whether it be Peterborough or actually I can have the office. We have a big massive room in Papworth, which we can have free of charge, and we can have it all day. So we're just debating whether that, and that will be discussed at the next meeting. So lots of things happening behind that people are doing, and it's just putting all things together and having the time, actually putting all things together. I'm kind of racking my brain around these concepts of how it looks, because we want a professional document. So we are getting there slowly, but you know, there are time constraints, obviously, because by this time next year, we need it being put through each of the councils.
Yeah, okay, so are you on track in terms of time?
Yes, I think so. Maybe a little bit behind, but I think we can make up that time. It is making up that time, but yeah, it's virtually on track.
Okay, and the date for the meeting of the Agreed Syllabus Conference is what, 30th of March?
Yes, it is. And if anybody just gets hold, Stacey's got Laura's email, or actually Stacey, Laura won't mind if you just send her email out as well. It's her governance one, so she'd be quite happy for that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments on that? No? Okay, item 6, we said we do a bit more of the self-evaluation, which actually I think there was a few, perhaps we'll do section 5, because actually I think that might be also relevant to the terms of reference and the constitution. We said we'd do we've got 3, I think let's do 3. We've got 3 bits left of section 1 that we started, and then section 5. If that's okay with everyone. I think it was some quite useful discussions came out of last time when we talked about it, and some useful actions. So I'd appreciate your thoughts. Has everyone got, apart from Andrew, has everyone got this in front of them? Yes. So we were on 1E, which was about information advice, and how well is Sacre informed in order to be able to advise the local authority appropriately. I think, I mean, I don't know how Sacre's work in other places, but I feel here that Rutland as a local authority is pretty embedded within, that's pretty involved with the Sacre, rather than and again, we were talking about whether how much information, it says a Sacre, whether it's receiving limited information from the local authority, or whether it's receiving about in terms of the quality and provision of RE and collective worship, and in a way that it enables the Sacre to be a critical friend and question the local authority's work. Now, I'm not sure how relevant all of that is. We obviously get reports from the officers at RCC at every meeting. So I don't know if anyone's got any comment on that in terms of the information we get about public exams. Obviously, the last couple of years have been a bit strange because we haven't had that many. Amanda.
Yeah, I think this is a hard one. It's just one that I obviously being involved in a number of Sacres, it's involved of actually of what you do, what you can see, and also with academisation, that's harder as well. And actually, you know, it's a Sacre can't actually go into schools and make a judgment, so you are relying on, I suppose, Ofsted looking at their websites, which aren't always accurate, as we've discovered, and other means like public exams, which doesn't always help within the primary sector of what we're doing in the primary sector. And I think that's one's a really hard one to judge, and I think it's actually, in a way, it's having that good relationship with the LA officers who actually know your schools and go into your schools.
Yeah. Anybody else got any thoughts on that? Again, I think we are reliant on the officers to inform us. As you said, the information is out there, not necessarily accurately on, you know, Ofsted, on the websites, and, you know, information on public exams. Any other comments? anything we could do to improve that? I'm a bit struggling with that too. Good, Ev.
Just a general point. I'm wondering whether we have too much information
Mm-hmm.
and not enough insight from the information.
Yeah.
But that's it's almost I can't think of a gap.
Sorry, you can't think of another.
I can't think of a gap in information. It's just whether or not it becomes too much.
Rather than the extra level down.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
officers would only get that from their going into schools, probably, wouldn't they? Or
yeah.
Okay. I think, yeah.
Can I just interject? I think actually also it's also actually when those officers are invited in as well. They're not always invited into all schools as well, because under the rules, having working in school improvement, it's actually, you know, academies can use any school they want. They don't have to have a monitoring visit, and in an LA school only has one monitoring visit a year unless they ask the LA for involvement. So again, sometimes that can be quite, you know, you really are relying on, I suppose, Ofsted and any SIAMs. But then again, we haven't had very many Ofsteds this year at all, unlike some of the other areas which have been inundated.
Okay, so with that, would we say we're in, we don't have to put ourselves in a box. I know it's just trying for Stacey to actually make some actual sense of that. That we do get regular information. We wonder whether we could get a bit more insight, but with the structure of things as they are, I don't see how we could improve that. Does that summarize that, Amanda?
Would it actually later on, I think actually perhaps at the next year, would it be quite nice to actually invite some of the teachers to actually occasionally to come and just talk and tell us what they're doing and what they feel about RE, what they feel about RE and what they want from it as well. That actually put that invite out there, and that was actually, it kind of actually opens it up a bit more, and to our secondary schools as well.
Yeah,
so we are out there, we're listening, and it actually promotes Sacre as well.
Yeah, I would think that's a good idea for everyone else. So Stacey, can we have that as an action point under that, to put on a future addenda, invite a school to come and talk to Sacre? Excellent. And then the next one is about partnership with key stakeholders. Certainly a couple, you know, members of Sacre have attended the national conference in the past and have been on various training, which I think we're making sure that is happening. This is also about views of pupils as well as teachers. Hear from pupils, students as part of their work around high quality RE and collective worship. So it might actually be, I don't know how feasible that is to hear from pupils, but that actually might be something to consider as well, even if it's some sort of something written that if a teacher comes to talk to us, they could maybe get some comments from pupils. So could we have that as an action point under that 1F? Stacey, is there anyone else feels that we could do in terms of local faith networks or anything? No, I think
again, I think that's quite a hard one.
It's a hard one.
Yeah, I think especially in somewhere quite small like Rutland as well.
Yeah.
Because actually, I think most of the views are here, and those people.
Yes, yeah, it's not like we have big networks of things. Okay, so that's an action point under that one. And then the last one on here is relationships with the academies sector. How effective we are at encouraging academies and incorporating them within the Sacre. So Amanda, did you have any further thoughts on that? I know we discussed that.
I think you are. You've got Megan here. Yeah, you've got Megan here, who is part of an academy chain. So yeah, I think actually it is very effective. I think it's effective that we do, and I think there's only 2 LA schools anyway, so I guess we're very reliant on actually on the academies, and it is actually those who attend the network meetings are from the academies as well. So yeah, I think actually it's always been very close. Sorry, bear with me. So that's my daughter, and I'm going into her school on Thursday to do a talk to her children. And I know she's just phoned me up to ask me about that. Sorry.
So Megan, would you say, I don't know if you're looking at this, would you say that
Bear with me.
We are inclusive of the academies? And because there was a question about what is legally valid and possible, or what's possible, obviously this relationship with academies is it's sometimes not clear.
Yeah, and I think it's still an evolving picture with academies. And I think that's the difficult bit, is that how our academies have developed are in very different ways. And we are in some ways, you will be the first Sacre to be in the situation we are, where we're affected. I think by the end of this academic year, there will be one school that is not in an academy. At which point, what is our jurisdiction? If you know, as a Sacre, what is our jurisdiction? And actually, we've got different, although we've got the vast majority with the Learning Trust, which the Academy my school's part of, Academy Trust my school's part of. You've also got the Brook Hill Multi-Academy Trust. You've got English Martyrs, which obviously in the Catholic Academy Trust. Then you've got the 3 secondaries who are all standalone, and Catmus Primary, obviously, with Catmus. I think I would be wary of saying we've got a great relationship with academies because I'm here, because actually I'm not here representing academies.
All of them,
I'm here representing teachers. So that's and I think it would be naive for us to say that we have a great link with academies because I'm here, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that perhaps we need to. I would argue perhaps we need to strengthen those links in some ways, because I don't feel I represent my academy trust on Sacre, and I couldn't tell you what their views are, if you see what I mean, of Sacre and how that works as a trust.
So how would that work? Would that be in terms of having...
I think potentially we need to be. I think there needs to be. It's that difficulty. What the clarity around what that would look like, and I don't. If I'm really honest, I don't know enough about it. So it is that clarity of what an academy, because academies are, all schools in all subjects are working really hard to try and make sure our curriculum is the best that it can be. And I would say from our Academies Trust point of view, we feel that the RE curriculum that we are providing at the moment is the very best that we can do and works for us. But it's whether, but I can't speak for the other academies, and I don't know if that makes sense. I can't say what Brook Hill are up to in their schools and vice versa. So it's a slightly,
and we haven't got responsibility for monitoring that in the same way, have we? So it's Amanda, do you want to come back in on that? It's I think one, isn't it?
I think it's pretty good. It's actually we have what the academies are talking to myself and talking, actually are talking to us. They're not ignoring us, which they could do. And I think actually it's talking with Lizzie and actually putting a message out. They say, could we have some more teachers sitting on Sacre actually? And I think then you'd actually have some more of the academies actually coming on as well. And I think actually it's the fact that actually I agree with Megan, we have got to get actually probably a bit more actively involved with them. They're not going to go away. And then things aren't going to change, and it's for them to know that actually Sacre is there for them as well. And ultimately we have to remember that actually all schools, the LA is responsible for all schools ultimately, whether they're an academy or an LA school. And if anything goes wrong in the end, it is actually the LA's responsibility.
Okay, but as Megan said, Megan isn't here representing, an academy member wouldn't be representing their particular.
No, and I think actually, and also the committee that Megan sits on, it's not necessarily, what most Sacres are saying actually is that teachers from academies are invited to sit on there to represent all teachers. and it doesn't
Okay.
matter if they're an academy or an LA.
No.
And perhaps actually that idea about the academies we need to perhaps actually put to one side. It's the teachers and the pupils we think of as a whole, rather than putting them into little boxes, perhaps.
Into the type of school.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. So we have got links. Sorry, Bjorn, and then Andrew.
Yes, on that last point that Amanda was making, do we have, or have we in the past had some links with the independent schools?
I think when I first started on Sacre, which would have been about 5 years ago, there was a tenuous link, I think, but no, we haven't. And I think actually just yes, having, perhaps it's something we need to have a look at, especially having two quite large private sector schools there. The only thing is Sacre has no responsibility to the independent schools. That's the only thing. But I think actually within Peterborough, Father Toby sits there. He actually works within the independent sector, even though he represents the diocese. And actually some of his points are actually quite important as well. And we have to think about all our pupils. So it might be worth putting perhaps something out there to the independent schools.
Andrew, and then Peter.
Yeah, I was just thinking aloud, and Peter's of the same age group that I am, and he will remember the politics behind this, going back many years, when the objective of that time, I think it was a Conservative government, was basically to get local authorities out of education altogether, fundamentally. And what I'm hearing this afternoon, I'm just wondering whether the council will have a role in the future. Question mark. That's just me thinking aloud.
Yeah.
That's me thinking aloud.
Peter.
I wanted you to know that I had informal contact with the chaplain of Uppingham School, Reverend Dr. James Saunders, and he is not only a formal contact but a personal friend. So there is a sort of informal link that goes on there.
Thank you. Okay, I mean, there's building the informal networks, and then it's the relationship with the Sacre, isn't it? Which there's no reason for the independent schools to actually become involved in Sacre at all. I mean, there's no, in many ways, okay, from a teacher's point of view, the academies, you know, are welcome, the representatives can be here, but actually there's no, again, it's that jurisdiction over what and the benefits of doing so. So I think that's probably, is that an action point really for us to consider strengthening those relationships with staff from academies and the independent sector in this area? Is that okay, Stacey? I mean, I don't want. So then I'd like us to move on to section 5, which is a bit on the same line. I think this is, as I said, I don't want to do this self-evaluation as a tick box. It's more to provoke discussion and thinking about ways that we can actually enhance the role of Sacre and make sure we're representative. So section 5 is about promoting community cohesion. And the first one is 5A, is how representative is Sacre's membership of the local community. I would say that we have a pretty representative number of people on this committee, and we do have a number of people who from other groups who maybe don't. It's the number of people who actually attend. I know one of the action points from last time was to follow up with Arga, who was the Jewish member, but we've had no contact, have we? Amanda?
I did. I emailed Aga, and she hasn't come back to me. She was at the last Sacre meeting for Cambridgeshire, so I would assume she hasn't come back to me. I've sent 2 emails. So can I suggest that actually, if there is anybody within the Jewish sector, from the Jewish community, or from that faith within Rutland, to actually, perhaps if anybody has, to actually get hold of them, and perhaps actually and ask them, would they like to join? Would they like to be part of the group?
Well, we did get contacted by Sheila Gottweb to ask that. So Stacey, I wonder, can you just drop a final email to Aga and say, as we haven't heard from her, that to confirm otherwise, we're working on the assumption that I don't know when the last meeting she attended was, but certainly I don't think you can perhaps check the last meeting she attended, as we haven't heard from her. Also ask her if there's if there's anyone else who would be willing to represent the Jewish faith. And then you've got the contact of, is it Sheila? Did she? And perhaps copy them both in.
Yes, I can do
to
that.
see if Sheila wants to take up that position. So would you say that we have a membership that broadly reflects the diversity of the local community? Do you think there's any other particular faith groups or representation that we need to actually promote or find people to represent? We've got a member of obviously Andrew the Humanist, Roman Catholic Church, Gooder from the Sikh faith, Rhoda from the Baptist Church, and Andreas from the Roman Catholic Church, and obviously the Church of England representatives. Peter.
There's a small point which I will follow up. Rutland Deanery, I believe, ought to have representatives on Sacre constitutionally, and that's rather a confused thing, that I'm here as a representative of Peterborough Diocese, as is Reverend James. But we don't have representation from the Rutland Deanery, so I will follow that up to give a more local representation.
Are they a group that, again, we probably need to refer back to our terms of reference then, if they're a group that should be included on there?
Yes, they are, yes.
Are they specifically listed?
I would need to check that, but I believe so.
Okay.
But I will check that and come back to you in the next meeting.
Okay, so we'll do that in our review of our terms of reference. Bjorn.
Do we have a member or representative of the Muslim faith? Because I haven't, I think, met him or her yet.
No.
I think this is rather important, isn't it? Because that surely must be one of the larger minority groups within Rutland.
Yeah. Amanda, do you want to come in first? Next.
Yeah, I think the census details from last year are due out around about September. So it could be wise just to perhaps wait till September and just have a look at what the makeup is and how it's perhaps changed from 2011. And perhaps have a think then of actually what it's, if there's any significant changes there.
Okay. Does anyone have any contacts with anyone from that faith or anybody else that we could just make an informal contact at this stage? Gerda.
I'm just wondering, probably a question for Amanda, whether we can ask Sacre. So she's chair of the Peterborough community, Peterborough Sacre, and she may have links across counties. I'll email, if you'd like me to. I can. Sacre is actually the chair of Sacre, and she's on the Sacre at the moment, and she's actually the Great Syllabus Conference chair. And I wonder, actually, even if she doesn't have anybody, I wonder if she knows somebody who might want to actually take up that role. So I know she's quite busy and she's doing her own PhD and things at the moment. So yeah, it's a good idea. I'm quite happy to ask Sacre if there's anybody within her community.
And also any other groups represented on any of the other Sacres that you're involved in, but aren't represented on this Sacre. But we will have to also, refer back to our terms of reference to make sure that we can, in terms of the structure,
I think it's interesting to have somebody from the different faith backgrounds as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Backgrounds, yeah, just to give that, because I think as things do change and society does change, that's really quite important as well.
And although I know on this question, does the membership reflect the religious diversity? I think that's sort of less important than having that range of views, possibly in representation, rather than saying, well, X% of the community is of this faith and X% is that, and therefore we need to mirror that. I would say it's important to have that range of views. So on that, I would say that we're an established Sacre in terms of our representation, but again, we'll take those actions to see if we can actually include some additional people. Good, Ev.
Just to add to what you just said there, Rosemary, that we're an established Sacre with that range, but we also continue to review that.
Yes.
As
yes.
information becomes available.
Yeah, yeah. Is that okay, Stacey? 5B was about how do we know and understand our local community with its religious, cultural and ethnic dimensions. Be aware of the different groups. I don't know what evidence we have, but I've got a strong sense that we actually have quite good, pretty good understanding. As trouble is, we don't know what we don't know, but has anyone got any views on that? We'll have some census information as well, as Amanda said, later this year, and to take active steps to inform further. I think that's the same question about who we're liaising with, who we're interacting with. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, so that's the membership, and then engagement with local community cohesion. What's that? It's probably have an understanding of what community cohesion means and duty on schools to promote this, and the part RE can play in promoting community cohesion. Maybe that's something for a training or some sort of discussion with some resources, what exactly that means in practice.
I was wondering what you meant.
We're all signed up to it, but I just wonder what it actually means.
Can I'm wondering actually, because some Sacre, you look at some Sacres, and I was on a webinar at the beginning of the month, and it kind of it annoys me sometimes, these webinars. It was one from the Sacre where they kind of go back to that London centric kind of view, where actually, because they were saying about worldviews, well, you can just go outside your door and just kind of like pluck a Muslim off the street, or just go down to the Gurdwara just down the road. Well, actually, it's very difficult for Rutland and other areas and schools within our areas. It's quite difficult to do that. So I sometimes think some of these questions are where community cohesion, where perhaps actually the community cohesion means something very different at some areas to other areas, where perhaps actually in some places like Newham and places like that, where Sacre is very much also part of and involved, and the members are involved within the local community as well in a different way. That makes sense. Sorry, it's something.
Yeah, no, it is. Just say it's only the next section 5D is about be aware of some local authority initiatives promoting community cohesion, and have the opportunity to just discuss and contribute to this work, and awareness of interfaith groups and supporting so I think again, I don't want us to get bogged down in this. We've got to do what's appropriate for our area, but I think it's quite useful to look at this and think, is there anything else that we should be doing? So any other ideas? I'm just wondering whether we maybe find some resources or linking with something that Rutland's doing in terms of that type of thing.
I think I'm just going to go to Megan here. I think that's that kind of thing. Some of the schools want for the community is that they often want people who can come and speak, isn't it, to their schools from the community. And perhaps actually one thing that Peterborough has done, they've put a list together of the different kind of faiths and the organisations who will can't speak, either at the moment, lots of them still virtually, or they can visit. And I'm wondering actually if it's using that document, and we can ask Peter if they can use that, they can borrow that document and perhaps add to it and that kind of thing, of what's available in Rutland. And there might be things in Rutland that some schools aren't aware of, and things actually what they can do and how that can be included.
Certainly talking to one of the RE teachers, she said that a sort of a list of those type of resources and insight would be useful. The other thing I'm thinking about community cohesion, we obviously in Rutland have quite a large military presence at Kendrew Barracks, where there is a complete range of nationalities up there and faith. So I'm just wondering if that's, and I don't know how, I don't know what the word is, how whether they feel part of the Rutland community or whether that operates as a very separate community, and whether there's anything that as a Sacre linked with that type of community cohesion. Megan, I just throw that as a thought, because that's probably you know, an area within Rutland that is in a way quite separate.
I would say when we talk as schools about community cohesion, we're not just talking about religion and belief, we're talking about what our local community contains, and the sort of, you know, so for example, my school has quite a large traveller. So, you know, one of our vulnerable groups when we're talking about significant groups of children is actually traveller children, for us particularly circus and fairground, but for other schools in Rutland they will have travellers who may be gypsy travellers, and who may be from different traveller communities. And I think it's being aware that when if Ofsted come in and talk to us about community cohesion, it's not just about religion, it's about bringing together all the areas of the community, and it's something that schools are very aware of, but it will be individual to each school. So for example, I know Cottesmore Academy, which obviously has a lot of children who are from all around the world because the military, they do an awful lot looking at bringing the community together and celebrating the different cultures that they have there, not just in terms of religion, because often the culture is of a Christian denomination, in terms of religion, but that actually in terms of celebrating how, you know, they've got a lot of Fijian children, you know, what's life like in Fiji, how does that impact back onto the base. So I think it's being aware that community cohesion for schools is not just around RE, and it's something that schools are looking at a lot, so it might be worth, you know, just asking the question a little bit.
Okay, so do you think us as a Sacre have a role in that,
I think
value to add to that?
I think in terms of, you know, having lists of people who can visit and talk knowledgeably about things is useful, but I think it's just being aware that for schools, community cohesion goes beyond Sacre as well. I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Amanda.
I'm just going to take it on from Megan, actually, that I have done some work with the MOD. Schools actually have their own Sacre for their schools across, and actually I do have the contact, and it's exactly saying actually what Megan, they have to really think quite broadly about the children they have and where they come from. And it might be I do have the I have the connection with them because I did some training for them, and I'm happy to actually ask if there's anything actually that perhaps we need to be aware of, or perhaps actually they could come and have a talk to Sacre about the needs of those, kind of like the needs of those children, and how they meet the needs of those children within their Sacre and their schools. Okay,
yeah, I think that would be useful. So yeah, brilliant. Okay, thank you. So I hope you I think that was quite a useful conversation to getting us thinking about those different elements. So Stacey, as I say, it's not just a tick box on that self-evaluation that we have to sort of put ourselves in categories, it's more to see if there's anything useful comes out of it. So, but Stacey, I'll, you know, if you've made some notes, then I'll just look over those. Amanda, you're on mute still.
Sorry, hand should have come down.
Oh right, sorry. Okay, Moving on to the rest of the agenda, I think item number 7, the development plan, again, we'll wait until we've finished the self-evaluation, then we'll update it at future meeting. Item number 8, has anybody been on any specific training relating to Sacre? Amanda has.
Oh, yes, I did the Worldviews webinar the other week from the Sacre to feed back into the agreed syllabus. It was interesting, as I said, that's where it came very kind of London centric, and that's when it's a huge bugbear when you think actually it's not just a lot of our children, a lot of our schools, you know, to get to other places and see perhaps diversity within life is a bus trip, and it's not just down the road. And I'm actually doing a course tomorrow Gabriel, bear with me because I can't remember which one it is. I've got 2 courses coming up. Cullum St Gabriel's, I am doing a meeting tomorrow, and it's actually an approach to decolonizing and teaching about Jesus in the primary schools, and they're all free, and I'm happy to send those over. I just happened to pick them up from a forum I was on. I'm on a forum that came through, and I saw it, and I'm doing one again in a couple of weeks' time, and they're free, and they're kind of like conversations and things, and I'm happy to send the link over.
Okay, thank you. No other training for anyone else. I think we did get the heads up on the annual conference.
Can I was going to ask something actually I put to Stacey. I said I'd ask Stacey, are you getting the kind of like the notifications through from the Sacre about all the different training that they're putting through?
I do. Stacey sends them out, don't you?
Good. So I'm just making sure. Yeah, because there are some quite good ones on there, and some quite actually, because I know there's some training coming up for people new to Sacre and things coming up, and I think it'd be quite interesting. Yeah, okay, and we'll just make a note of who. Yeah, so anyone who wants to, obviously, with them on Zoom or Teams, that's quite good because they're usually free. And then we'll. Is the national conference going to be on Zoom again? Do you know, Amanda? Virtually, or I haven't heard. It's supposedly in Birmingham. Okay. Supposedly, all the stuff on the Sacre website is saying it's actually on Birmingham. It's going to be in Birmingham, which is a lot easier for me to get to. Yeah. Joe, quickly, I've just heard back from Sacre. Sacre is happy just on a short-term basis to represent the Muslim faith. Oh, brilliant! Until somebody else actually can be part of their. Stacey, I'll pass on Sacane's agreement, and yes, you can use the faith document of different faiths. If you just accredit it to parts of it to Peterborough, and I'll send that through to Stacey this evening as well. Okay, thank you. And if we can, okay, we need to see how much attendance costs at the national conference and whether there's anybody who is interested in going. I can't remember how much it was last time. I can't remember. I think it's £55. I know Peter went. I can't remember how much it was. Yeah.
I don't remember how much it was, but I do believe that Reverend James McWhirter was going to go, wasn't he, to represent us?
What, this year? James and I went last year, but we went virtually.
Oh, sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah, we went last year. Stacey, could you check with Lizzie if within our budget we have a training element of it?
Yes, I can do, yeah.
If there's any designated for actual training. I'd hope that we can, that from the Sacre, that we could pay for one person and have a think about if you can circulate the date when it's available. Well, it should be available now, and we'll see if anybody is able to go. Amanda, are you updating us on the network meetings and then the monitoring? Yes, nothing on the monitoring. Lizzie hasn't come through to me on the monitoring, so I have to kind of assume there's been no Ofsted. There's been nothing to do with Ofsted in Rutland. One thing I have done, I'm beginning to putting together, I'm doing some training on Ofsted and RE next week, and I've had some quite long talks with 2 schools in Cambridgeshire who have had deep dives in RE,
and have met with both teachers to put together what they have said and what that visit was like. And I did email Lizzie this morning to say I think it's something which would be really valuable to all schools, whether they're academies in every school, to know this is what actually happened, and this is the kind of things that they concentrated on. And I'm putting that together in a PowerPoint, so that's really important. Network meetings are the 24th and 29th of March. Gurdjieff has very kindly agreed to come along and to do like a question and answers within the Sikh faith, which is really good. And I'm holding them jointly with Cambridgeshire and Peterborough to try and hopefully do some to have more teachers there to get more questions and perhaps some more ideas and thoughts going across different teachers. So I'm hoping that actually teachers in Rutland would enjoy actually having perhaps teachers from outside to talk to and communicate as well. So I'm trying that. So Stacey, I know Stacey and Lizzie had the flyer, and I'm assuming Stacey, it has gone out to schools.
What is that? Sorry, Amanda. Is that what?
It was to do with the network meetings. It was the flyer and everything I sent to you and Lizzie to do with the network meetings that needs to go to schools.
Yes, that would have been with. Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say I've seen it, so it's definitely you've definitely.
Brilliant. Yeah, because I never get to see whether it goes out of Peterborough and Cambridgeshire. I always get to see that it has gone out to schools. Okay, brilliant. It has gone out to schools. Yeah, because I have to do it separately because there's no charge for Rutland schools.
Okay, it makes sense to combine those network meetings, especially if they're being done virtually, doesn't it? Because you could, in terms of your time as well.
Yeah, and I think I'm probably going to keep these ones. I'll probably actually keep some of them virtually. We're going to do a real blended. There's going to be, been talking about that within Cambridge. It's going to be a real blended approach to training going forward. You know, where some of the things will be really, because actually some of it works really well on Zoom or Teams, and some of it works actually. And meeting. And it'd be quite nice to bring teachers. I just would be nice to bring teachers together and actually. And share ideas and share thoughts, and it's going to be around knowledge, what knowledge looks like in our and kind of putting that within what Ofsted expectations are.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on that? Or item 11 is any other urgent business? No. And we haven't got a date for the next meeting because they're set with the annual programme of meetings for the council, but obviously there's a few dates in the meantime of those network meetings and the agreed syllabus conference for people to listen into, and then we'll hear the next date as soon as that is set. Is that okay with everybody? And carry on obviously there's a lot going on with the agreed syllabus conference, and that's good to hear the progress on that. Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody, and see you next time, or at one of the other things in the meantime. Okay, bye.
Okay.
Thanks Stacey. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.